So where do we get the cobalt to make the batteries, and what do we do with them? No, I'm asking. Where do you recommend we get the cobalt to make the batteries?
Wait, can I answer? So, like, your argument is about this mining argument, right? Like.
No, I'm asking a question, dude. Like, where do we get it from? Yeah. So then, how about this? How and where should we dispose of the incredibly acidic, sometimes radioactive batteries that electric vehicles use? Where should we dispose of them?
But that argument, you see, it's a straw man because you're just.
Answer the question.
No, I am answering question. I am answering. I am literally answering your questions, right? So you're arguing about this renewable energies and their batteries and how they cause environmental harm, right?
I've asked a question. I'm not making an argument. What should we do with the batteries once we use them?
I'm saying that's a straw man because you can't.
Straw man question. That's a first. I've never been accused of a straw man question.
Because you.
So, again, not a trick question. What is carbon? It's not a trick question.
So here I will debate these three college kids, and of course they debate on climate change and then causes and solutions we will discuss in this very debate. So without any further ado, let's get on to this video and check this out.
First of all, thanks for coming to UCSB, and I was just wondering, given that you believe human beings are exacerbating climate change, shouldn't you agree that we ought to transition away from fossil fuels?
Well, no, I don't agree with that. My contention is I don't know. I do believe global temperatures are rising. I'm not willing to say definitively it's anthropogenic, meaning it's human activity. But if you connect the two, I asked the question I asked earlier, how much? Are there any other contributing factors to rising global temperatures other than human activity? If so, what are they, and to what degree do they factor into rising global temperatures? But sure, you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, I was wondering, how can you not know whether climate change is happening when a recent survey of 88,125 climate-related studies done by Institute of Physics cites that more than 99.9% of peer-reviewed scientific papers agree that climate change is caused by human activities?
How much? So how much of the global temperature rising is because of human activity? No. What percentage? Is it 70%, 80%, 85%, 5%, 1%? Because that's not what the study said. They're saying that human activity is contributing to part of the increase. What part? They don't know. That's debated.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So, like, there's actually a statistics or a study done that suggests that climate-related disasters are 8 times more likely than in 1980s.
Well, hold on a second. You know that we have less people dying because of quote-unquote climate-related disasters thanks to fossil fuels? We have less people dying because of extreme exposure to cold, hurricanes, because of the advancements we have thanks to fossil fuels. You know, this idea, it's very interesting in modern society. We take for granted the idea of having widespread shelter, heating, or air conditioning in extreme climates thanks to hydrocarbons, we take for granted. That used to be a leading cause of death of human beings up until 1850s. Now, if I posit your contention, climate-related catastrophes, even though according to peer-reviewed studies that climate-related catastrophe death is actually at all-time low. The question is then for you, which is, what would you get rid of, when, and what would the cost of that be? That is the question, so please answer that.
Well, I was just wondering, like, you know, you didn't really answer my question, but I was, obviously I can't give you like exact percentage of numbers, but I do think that we ought to transition away from fossil fuel, right? Like, I'm not against growth or development. I obviously agree with you that, you know, the Industrial Revolution, like economic growth is good. It's lifting people out of poverty. That's obviously good, right? But in developed countries today, where we have the ability to not damage our economy, but also benefit the environment, shouldn't we do that?
Okay, so give me an example. What specifically would you ban? You're king for a day. What would you ban? Would you ban liquid natural gas? Would you ban nuclear? Would you ban fracking? Would you ban... What kind of hydrocarbons would you ban? Give me the examples, and you're king for a day. What would you do?
Well, see, I wouldn't like straight up ban something, right? So I'm not advocating for, like, you know, just like fossil fuels. We end fossil fuels like immediately.
That's a mature answer. Good for you. No, I mean that. That's because the radicals don't always say that. Please continue.
Right. So I'll argue for like market-based solutions, a transition away, like for example, I think in 2020, the government funded $5.9 trillion to fossil fuel companies. I would say that instead of investing this money, $5.9 trillion to fossil fuel companies.
That doesn't sound right. But you might be in tax credits, maybe, or tax breaks. That doesn't sound right.
Subsidies.
No, that's 5.9 billion, probably not trillion. There's no way.
It's trillion.
Yeah, well, the federal budget was 3.8 trillion. So there's no way we spent more than our federal budget.
No.
But I'm going to help you out. It's probably billion. Did you say trillion or billion?
It's trillion. It's done by the International Monetary Fund, and probably is not.
It's not possible. I mean, I'm sorry to.
I'm not saying just in the United States.
Oh, okay, worldwide. All right, then that might be conceivable. Sure.
Right. So I mean, yeah. But anyways, so I would say instead of subsidizing these fossil fuels companies, I would say that take these subsidies to renewables and other forms with cleaner energy that would be beneficial to the environment while still pertaining economic
Fair enough. Last question. So where do we get the cobalt to make the batteries, and what do we do with them? No, I'm asking. Where do you recommend we get the cobalt to make the batteries?
Wait, can I answer? So, like, your argument is about this mining argument, right? Like.
No, I'm asking a question, dude. Like, where do we get it from? Yeah. So then, how about this? How and where should we dispose of the incredibly acidic, sometimes radioactive batteries that electric vehicles use? Where should we dispose of them?
But that argument, you see, it's a straw man because you're
Answer the question.
No, I am answering question. I am literally answering your questions, right? So you're arguing about this renewable energies and their batteries and how they cause environmental harm, right?
I've asked a question. I'm not making an argument. What should we do with the batteries once we use them?
I'm saying that's a straw man because you can't.
Straw man question. That's a first. I've never been accused of a straw man question.
Because you have an underlying premise in your question that renewable energies exist in a vacuum, but you can't do that. That's not comparative analysis. You have to compare renewables with fossil fuels, with fracking and stuff.
Right. All right, pal, how about this? You can't answer the question because deep down you know that cobalt-powered batteries are worse for the environment than liquid and natural gas and nuclear power. So you come up on here to try to virtue signal, I love the environment, but as soon as you ask me about the incredibly environmentally inefficient, destructive, animal-killing, acidic-producing batteries, you're a strong man. You're out of time. Thanks for being here tonight. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Kirk. I think climate change is a much more serious issue than the conservative movement gives it credit for. And so my question is, what common ground can we find regarding climate action, and how can we get more conservatives in on the movement? What can we find that we agree on?
Cool. I just want to make sure I understand where you're coming from, and this is not a trick question. Can you define what you mean by climate change?
Primarily reducing carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases.
Got it. So is your argument that rising global temperatures are tied to carbon emissions?
To my understanding, the scientific consensus is quite solid on that, yes.
Got it. Okay. So, again, not a trick question. What is carbon? It's not a trick question.
Okay. It's an element.
Yeah, right.
And carbon dioxide traps heat in the atmosphere.
Right. So carbon is life, right? So carbon, yeah, exactly. You can't have life without
I've heard this before, though, and the idea that carbon is plant food is great, but the reality is when there's 40 billion tons being emitted a year by a network of global factories and global tailpipes, that absolutely has an impact on climate. And
right.
I'm disappointed that this is the reaction
hold
to
on.
the question, honestly, because I don't know how you all, we're in an agricultural area, we're seeing it worse every year. It's getting
hold on,
bad,
let me ask
and
a question.
I don't know why conservative movement insists on resisting the scientific.
Well, I'm not resisting. I'm asking what carbon is. Okay, so let's make sure we're clear on what I'm saying. Do you think there could be other explanations as to why global temperatures are rising?
Yes.
Such as?
They've studied them, and it's not due to anything other than the emissions, to my
Okay, so
understanding.
not solar flares, global tilt.
Well, they've accounted for those, and they've found out that those are not the main drivers of the climate change that we're seeing.
Okay, so you trust, I just want to make sure I understand, you trust consensus from scientists that put forward reports?
No, I trust ExxonMobil's own scientists who found this out in the 1980s and hid the findings for decades so that they wouldn't lose money.
Right. So, excuse me, just as a kind of side note, I'm unbelievably skeptical when I hear scientists say, but let's pretend you're right. Okay, let's pretend that climate change is an existential threat. Would that be something that you say?
To our existence, to the human species, probably not. I imagine the
Okay.
rich will always find an ark to live in while the rest of us have our crops fail.
You have some nuance, so that's fair. So let's talk then about, let's pretend you're right. Let's say that there's some solutions. What would be a solution? Should we get rid of fossil fuels?
You know, if we could just filter out it's the carbon that's doing it. So I don't know about getting off of fossil fuels, but if we could
see,
find
that's why I
a way
asked
to
about your
filter out the
premise.
carbon.
The amount of certainty you have in a planet that is so massive with such unbelievable biodiversity to immediately act that we, the humans, are the only reason that global temperatures might be going up, I think is a flawed hypothesis. Because if you're wrong, then we might try to find a solution that actually might be more about private property confiscation and wealth deterioration, aka Marxism, not actually solving the problem. That's why I challenge the hypothesis. What else might be contributing to it? So let's just ask some very basic questions. So if carbon is the problem, would you support planting 1 trillion trees?
Yes.
Okay, good. We agree. So that wouldn't.
Sequestering carbon is part of the solution. I think there's a broader set of solutions than what the Democratic Party specifically has been bringing to the table. But again, this resistance by the conservatives to just not acknowledge that this carbon is an issue.
Why do you think we ask questions? Because we're dumb, or why do you think?
Skepticism with good reason.
Okay, good. No,
yeah.
okay,
but
good.
At some point, when in looking for the answer, you need to acknowledge that the answer can be found, and the answer has been found. People have spent their lives and careers studying this for decades. It's been over 100 years ago since people were first talking about the idea that carbon was trapping heat. So this is not a new idea.
Do you have any fear that the solution might be worse than the problem?
What solution? Sure, some, yeah.
Like, for
But I'd like
example,
to broaden-
mandatory electric vehicles?
Oh, no, electrical vehicles will mine the ocean to death before we get everyone an electric car. It's not a solution.
Yeah, I mean, that's also, cobalt's really, really bad for the environment.
Yeah, we need to go car-free and build walkable communities again, actually.
No, that's a very bad idea. See, now we're getting somewhere, okay? Bad idea. Cars are freedom, right? Without a vehicle, you are a captive of the government in an open-air prison, right? And so, just look at San Francisco.
It just means you can walk to the grocery store without needing a vehicle.
Right. That's a 15-minute city model. But no, this is important, and we're not going to.
I've been studying architecture for 4 years. I've been studying a little bit of urbanism too.
Right.
It's not taking away your freedoms, the fact that you get to go to a grocery store and a library and a coffee store within a 15-minute walk, folks.
Okay.
That's actually independence from the automobile. But that's
independence is being able to go where you want to go when you want to go there. That's what independence is.
Yeah.
But we're not going to find.
Then?
Here's the one thing that I want to make sure. I don't get this from you because you're coming at it from a good place. The panic over climate becomes such a priority by people that also have the solution in mind. I'm not saying it's you, right?
It's fair.
And
That's
so
fair.
we have a built-in healthy skepticism over the last decade that we are being constantly lied to by the same amount of cabal of criminals, and at the very least, exaggerating the threat, okay? Exaggerating the threat, where we are told we must take our freedoms and liberties away. We must reconfigure our life. And I'll be very honest with you, that with all of the pressing challenges that face humanity, like the most suicidal generation in history, the most drug-addicted generation in history, the most alcohol-addicted generation in history, the fixation on an abstraction of rising global temperatures is an academic distraction from real material suffering that people have when the activists, not necessarily you, but the loudest activists, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, they want to get rid of fossil fuels, they want to disenfranchise millions of people of work, and they want to basically put the entire grid in an unrealistic solar, wind, and turbine type model.
Mr. Kirk, you sound so much like the liberal coastal elites that you rail against, because the reality is the first year that my family bought cows, 2012, we had a record-breaking drought, and hay had to be trucked in from Oklahoma or Texas. The following spring, it rained so hard and so much it broke records, and the bridges washed out, and my mother couldn't get to work. So this is very much a real issue.
Let me ask you,
We're
in the last 50 years, have there been irregular weather patterns in the 60s, 70s, or 80s? Yes. I would just close with this. You could talk to any rancher or farmer here in Missouri. Unpredictability is part of the agrarian lifestyle. To act as if you could perfectly model it, but here's the one thing about climate change that drives me crazy, and I'll just close with this, is that No matter what happens, it gets warmer, it's climate change, it gets colder, it's climate change, it's tornado, it's climate change, it's sunny, it's climate change. It's the one thing that confirms the hypothesis regardless of the result. And so it's the perfect thing to argue for. You might be right, I don't think you are, that rising global temperatures are necessarily tied to human activity. But every solution I hear, every solution would obliterate the American economy and destroy our ability to use our greatest asset, with is fossil fuels, natural gas, liquid natural gas, and oil. Thank you so much. I got to get to the next question. Thank you. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. We're doing so much good work here at Turning Point USA. Also, get your tickets to AmFest. That's amfest.com, the biggest party of the year in Phoenix Convention Center. We have Tucker Carlson and really big speakers coming. I'll be there. It's going to be unbelievable. Meet your future husband, future wife. It's going to be great. Amfest.com, amfest.com. Get there. Go get the tickets. It's going to be amazing. And again, please subscribe and hit this bell. We appreciate it. And if you listen to audio podcasts, subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. That's Charlie Kirk Show podcast. We won, everybody. We won. I need to get this hat. Daisy, can you get me one of these hats? We won. And if you guys want a limited edition signed MAGA hat right here, last thing I'll say is become a member, members.charliekirk.com, to get a limited edition MAGA hat. We have 5,000 to send out, don't we, Daisy?
Over, like 8,000 now.
We have 8,000 hats I have to sign. 8,000 hats. God bless. Get your tickets to AmFest. That's amfest.com, amfest.com, amfest.com.
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Listening to Charlie Kirk and this couple of college kids, of course, debating him on climate change, but then looking at some of the causes that was well discussed, and then therefore the solution which Charlie suggested, that why not planting maybe 8 trillion trees. And of course, if you look at the causes of this climate change, for instance, that we all believe that it is mainly caused by human activities, even though we can't really tell the percentage that these human activities is really causing to this climate change, but we all understand the effect of this climate change in this very world. So first of all, we have mentioned a couple of things that are mainly the causes of this climate change. Should we talk about the fossil oil? Should we talk about the car batteries, lithium? How can we better the cover that is being used for these electric vehicles? And of course, if conservative should take some of these things very seriously for the interest of the world, how can we be able to do with for instance Elon Musk's company, that Tesla deals more in manufacturing electric batteries? So the whole question is, how should we dispose the car batteries? That has been a bigger problem. And then if you look at it even from how it was being discussed by Charlie, a very good we don't really have a good solution on where we should actually dispose this lithium battery, because we all know that lithium is very acidic, and of course it causes danger to us. And of course we have seen couple of people dying from what? Global warming. We could talk about the heat. Heat is very bad, and of course it tends to expose we human beings to danger that has led a lot of people to die. Or should we talk about the carbon monoxide? But then first of all, if you look at it, either it's industrial activities, or we talk about fracking, or we talk about production. It could be food production or any other thing, or even transportation. At the end of the day, what is the end product? And then that's when we have to discuss more when it comes to carbon monoxide. It's very bad for human. It's very bad as we inhale it, and then it's one of the reasons that is causing some of this global warming. But then at the end of the day, even if we decide to plant 2 trillion trees, does it really fix the problem? Even if we decide to stop deforestation, but then there are other things, activities that we all do that will still cause it. But then if you look at it at the end of the day, it now depends on me and you. How do we make this world safe? How can we make it a better place? Because the moment we keep on putting blames on others without actually fixing the real problems, then we can't be able to we will end up not having a world to stay. If you look at this very college kid that was saying that, okay, why not ban it so that of course we can just walk to the grocery store? But then at the end of the day, are we going to the Marxist? Are we becoming a communist? Should the government control everything? That is bad. That is not freedom. So how can we be able to avoid some of these things? We can't be able to like say, so how can you be able to travel, or even your goods from one place to another? Should we return back to the times of the animals that people we are using, donkeys to carry things and then travel, camels and the rest of it? Should we go back to such age? But even at that, even before the invention of the electric cars, how were the people, living, and why were they still, having this global warming that people were dying out of heat? I just wonder. I don't even want to talk more about cold, because I could say that people may not necessarily die much. If we should look at it based on percentage, we can say that a lot of people are dying because of cold, but we can say that people are dying, a lot of people are dying because of heat, and all these things are being caused by what? The climate change. And then that is the reasons why we as humans, we have to work together collectively in order to fix some of this problem. But of course, I know that a lot of you have thought and opinion, and I wanted to drop it at the comment section. And may God bless you as you do so. So this is the end of my video. If you like my reaction, should like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section, and I'm going to check it out. So you remain blessed, and I see you in my next video. Goodbye.